Where is it? Where is it? Welcome to Unlocking Catholic Literature. I'm your host, William Danahy, and today this is a good episode. I would definitely say this is a good one, a not skip one. This one's really good. So if you're new to this channel, all season 1 or all of chapter 1 and introduction down in the description through the podcast. And enjoy. Let's get started. So we're going to jump right into this part 4 of chapter 2. And we are talking about temptations faced by pastoral workers, which can mean priests, clergy, you and me. You and me. Us. All of us. So he starts off by saying that he's really grateful for all those who are committed to the church, all those who give their lives for the church. And it's disheartening and it's sad, and we all suffer from the sins, from realizing our own sins and the sins of some members of the church. And it shows a poor face of the church. But he says that even in the face of that, we shouldn't forget the numerous thousands of Christians who are giving their lives for the church. Those who care for the poor, those who are with the elderly in makeshift hospitals, taking care of the sick, being with those who need a friend, need God, need someone to be there with. And he says that although there are some great facets of globalization, like there's some great things that can happen with that, we all face temptations within it as well. So he just runs through a couple temptations in this section of chapter 2, and we're going to get some more in some later episodes. But these 2 specifically are so golden, so good. And he first off says that there are some challenges to have a missionary spirituality. So he says that today he sees a lot of people, a lot of missionaries who just are so concerned with freedom and relaxation and personal time. And he says that we treat, if we're one of those people, we treat our work of evangelization, which is in our call to be Christians, in our call, he says we treat it as this appendage to who we are, just like this thing. And he says, even though we pray, even though some of us pray, we also treat our prayer life as not having anything to do with helping the poor. Like our prayer does not lead us to love, does not lead us to serve the poor, does not lead us to serve those who are in need. And then there's this heightened individualism. We're not a community. We're not together. We lose our identity. We have identity crises, and we also lose our fervor in being missionaries because we treat it as this appendage of who we are as being Christian. And he says that with this mass media, there's some bad views on the church. There's some bad views on the church, and there's a lot of pastoral workers. Again, this is either priest, clergy, or you and I, who we shy away from being Christian. We hide our identity as being Christians. And he says, even though we pray, we hide our identity as being Christian, as being missionaries. We want to be with the world. We want to be like people of the world. We become unhappy. And then our missionary zeal, our mission of evangelization, we lose it. We want to be like the world, so we want to do things that people do, and we want to have things that people have. And then our work of evangelization then becomes forced and not something that flows out of us, something that we need to force. And then we fall into this relativism where it's super dangerous, and we act as if though God doesn't exist. We act as though the poor don't exist. We act as if people who have not encountered Jesus do not exist. And he says that a lot of us, frequently fall into this, and it's super sad. But he says, don't let your missionary zeal, let's not let our missionary zeal be robbed from us. Don't let our missionary zeal be robbed from us. So that's how he ends off this little section, these two great key points. So powerful, so beautiful to be in community, to evangelize, and to have that heart of evangelization. So just to wrap up and to have a resume of what we've gone over so far, joy is the mark of the new evangelization. We go on how we do not have that joy because we're caught up in the world, which leads us to being unhappy, but we need a encounter with Christ, which leads us to this newness in life, which is beautiful, and we want to share that with others. In sharing that with others, we receive life, and this is for the transmission of faith, to transmit the faith and this joy to other people. And we are called by Jesus to go forth and make disciples of all nations. And what does it look like for a church to share the good news? And he says a community is involved, supportive, bearing fruit, and rejoicing. And he says that this is what a community looks like. They are patient. They are with people. They are with the poor. They are with those especially who do not know Christ. And he says we need a renewal within the church, so that everything that the church does is for this purpose, to evangelize. And this cannot be deferred. Like it has to happen now. It's not something that can happen later. And this has to be done by the bishops and the priests and the laity to make this progress forward. And when we're sharing the good news, let it be from the heart of the gospel. Let it be not secondary aspects of the faith, but primary aspects of the faith, the heart of the gospel. Jesus died for us, God's love, and our invitation into that love. And everything else, the hierarchy of virtues, like mercy is the greatest is that heart of the gospel, God's love, and our invitation to act into that love, to say yes to, and respond to that love. And the church is a missionary disciple as well, and as a disciple needs to look inwardly, and to be purified. So the church needs to be purified. We need to evangelize in a way that we're telling the truth. We're telling the truth, the heart of the gospel, but we have to say it in a language that can be understood in today's world. And so does the church must change, not in truth, but in how she evangelizes and how we evangelize. And our doors must be open, and the church's doors must be open physically, communally, spiritually, and our hearts should be broken for the fact that there are people who do not know Christ. And he goes into chapter 2 talking about some challenges that are being faced, this exclusion, this relativism, this globalization, which is bringing in bad influential media and entertainment, which is diminishing the sanctity of marriage, breaking families apart, societies are falling apart, and there's this individuality which is being formed, and there's no sense of community, and we're called to share the good news. We have a central, there is a mission, there is a purpose, there is a direction in which we can move to heal communities, to heal families, to bring them together. And he says that there are certain reasons why this happens. Families aren't talking anymore. There's less communication within the family as well. There's less pastoral care for the poor. Yeah, we need to change. There also needs to be a revival in the economic system, how the money now is ruling people and it is not serving people, and people are just getting caught up in consumption. There's so much suffering within our cities as well. Our cities are falling apart. But again, these are central hubs. These are places which we can move forward and evangelize. And then he goes on to some temptations which we face as missionaries, which we are all missionaries, and we're all called to be missionaries. And he says that there are certain temptations which we face. And within this globalization, which can have some great good, there are also some temptations which we face. And one of those temptations is losing our sense of this missionary zeal, the fact that we do have a mission. And although we do pray, we treat this mission that we have as an appendage to our lives. We treat this mission that we have as something that is not that important, that is not a part of us as our identity, as being Christian, as Christ called us to be. Even though we pray, we have this heightened individualism, this heightened need and desire for personal freedom and relaxation, and we lose this identity of a missionary call that we all have, that gives us life, and we lose this fervor by doing that. And at times where there's this media and these intellectual circles which are bashing the church, which are just the church has a bad reputation, we as missionaries, we as clergy, we as priest, prophet, and king, we are shying away and hiding our identity as Catholics, as Christians, as missionaries, and we hide in our shells, and we try to be like the world. We try to be like the people around us, and we want the things that they have. We become unhappy. And when we are unhappy, we lose this identity of being missionaries, of having a mission of evangelization. And then the work of evangelization is so scary, and it's so not us. He says we fall into this relativism, and all our actions are as if God didn't exist, and the poor didn't exist, and those who don't know Christ don't exist. And he's like, don't let us be robbed by our missionary enthusiasm, by this mission that we have to evangelize. And I'm just going to come back to a point that he said back in the earlier section of the book, which is like, sometimes doing that is just slowing down. It's just slowing down and being with people, but still recognizing our identity as missionaries called by Christ to evangelize the whole world. This is the end of this section of Evangelii Gaudium. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and a comment if you have any questions. I may be able to answer them in the next video or the next video. It's a great pleasure to do this, and I will see you next time.